My beloved child, pause for a moment. Stop whatever you are doing, for this message is going to be very special for you. You receive many messages daily, but this one is unlike the others. This message has reached you by my will. Do not mistake it for mere coincidence. Today, only those for whom my heart has been longing to speak for days will be able to hear this message. Do not dismiss this as ordinary. Listen to it with your full attention. There comes a moment in almost every life when the silence becomes louder than the prayers. Not because you stopped believing, not because you stopped hoping, but because you've been waiting so long that even your strongest faith has begun to whisper instead of sing. You tell yourself you'll keep going. You smile when people ask how you're doing. You carry on with your responsibilities. Yet deep inside, a single question keeps returning. Has anything really been changing? Or have I been waiting for something that will never come? If you've ever asked that question, don't leave this message too quickly. Because what you're about to hear isn't about pretending pain doesn't exist. It isn't about ignoring disappointment or covering your wounds with empty optimism. It's about discovering a truth that has quietly changed ordinary people into men and women of extraordinary faith for thousands of years. There is something heaven does long before your eyes ever recognize it. And if you understand that secret, you may never look at another season of waiting the same way again. Think about a seed resting beneath the soil. From the surface, nothing appears to happen. Day after day, week after week, the ground looks exactly the same. Anyone walking past would assume nothing is alive beneath it. Yet hidden from every human eye, roots are stretching into places no one can see. Life is already moving. Strength is already forming. The future tree already exists. Long before the first green leaf breaks through the earth, your life often unfolds the same way. Some of the greatest works of God begin where applause cannot reach. They begin where nobody notices. They begin in silence. The world celebrates visible success. God often begins with invisible preparation. That difference changes everything. Because when people judge your life only by what they can see today, they may believe nothing is happening. But heaven has never measured progress the way people do. Scripture reminds us in Isaiah 55 that God's thoughts are higher than our thoughts and His ways are higher than our ways. That isn't merely poetry. It's an invitation to trust a perspective far greater than our own. Imagine standing inside a massive cathedral while only one stone has been laid. You might conclude there will never be a masterpiece. The architect already sees stained glass windows, towering pillars, and light filling every corner. We see today's stone. God sees tomorrow's sanctuary. How many times have we mistaken unfinished work for abandoned work? How often have we confused delay with absence? How many tears have fallen simply because we expected heaven to move according to our calendar instead of God's perfect wisdom? Maybe that's where you are today. You've prayed. You've waited. You've tried to stay faithful. Yet the answer seems farther away than ever. Perhaps you've watched others celebrate blessings while your own heart quietly wonders why your season still feels unfinished. Those moments can become dangerous. Not because God has left, but because disappointment has a way of rewriting the story if we let it. Disappointment whispers, "Nothing is changing." Fear whispers, "You missed your chance." Weariness whispers, "Stop expecting anything." But Scripture tells a very different story. Romans 8 reminds us that God works all things together for good for those who love Him and are called according to His purpose. Notice those words carefully. Not some things. Not only the joyful moments. Not only the victories. All things. Even the chapters you wish had never happened. Even the conversations that broke your heart. Even the opportunities that disappeared without explanation. Even the prayers that seemed to remain unanswered. God has never been limited to working only with perfect circumstances. Again and again throughout the Bible, He begins His greatest stories in places that looked completely hopeless. A prison, a wilderness, a shepherd's field, a storm, a cross. The places people expected endings became the places where God began writing new beginnings. So before you decide that your story is over, before you convince yourself that nothing beautiful could possibly grow from this season, Ask yourself one question. What if heaven has been preparing something your eyes simply cannot see yet? Because throughout Scripture, that has happened far more often than people realize. And perhaps it's happening to you right now. There is a quiet danger that often arrives long before a person gives up. It doesn't announce itself with loud words. It doesn't appear overnight. Instead, it settles into the heart little by little, disguising itself as realism. You stop expecting good news. You lower your hopes to protect yourself from disappointment. You convince yourself that expecting less will somehow hurt less. But something precious begins to fade. Not your ability, not your intelligence, your expectation. And Scripture shows us that expectation has always been closely connected to faith. Faith is not pretending everything is perfect. It is choosing to trust God's character even when the evidence around you seems incomplete. That kind of trust rarely grows in comfortable seasons. It grows where answers seem delayed. It grows when prayers remain unfinished. It grows when tomorrow looks no clearer than yesterday. If you've ever stood in that place, you're not alone. Many of the people God used most powerfully walked through long stretches where nothing appeared to make sense. One of them was a young man named Joseph. Imagine being 17 years old. You carry dreams that seem too extraordinary to explain. You believe your future has purpose. Then, almost overnight, everything collapses. Your own brothers, the people who should have protected you, turn against you. They strip away your robe. They throw you into a dry pit. Not because you failed, not because you sinned, simply because they could not bear what God had placed inside you. Think about the silence of that pit. No applause, no promises being fulfilled, no visible miracle, only darkness and unanswered questions. If Joseph had judged God only by that moment, he might have believed his calling had ended before it even began. But heaven had already begun preparing something larger than Joseph could possibly imagine. The pit was not his destination. It was preparation. The caravan passing nearby didn't look like an answer. It looked like another tragedy. Being sold into slavery certainly didn't resemble God's favor. Working faithfully in a foreign land didn't feel like destiny. Being falsely accused wasn't the reward he expected. Prison bars hardly looked like fulfilled promises. Yet every painful chapter carried him one step closer to the place God had already seen from the beginning. Notice something remarkable. God never wasted Joseph's hidden years. The prison taught wisdom. Responsibility shaped his character. Loneliness deepened his dependence on God. Delay developed patience. Every season that seemed empty was quietly building the leader Egypt would one day need. Sometimes we ask God for the palace, while He is preparing us in the prison. Because if the palace arrives before the character is ready, success becomes a burden instead of a blessing. Preparation often takes longer than promotion. Not because God enjoys making us wait, because what He is building inside us is more valuable than what He plans to place into our hands. Perhaps you've asked God to open a certain door, a relationship, a ministry, a career, a dream you've carried for years. Maybe that door remains closed today. It's easy to assume heaven has forgotten. But what if the closed door isn't evidence of rejection? What if it's evidence that your story is still under construction? A skilled sculptor doesn't rush the final masterpiece. Every careful strike removes something unnecessary. Every detail serves a purpose. If someone walked into the workshop halfway through, they might mistake the unfinished stone for failure. The artist already sees the finished sculpture. God sees your life the same way. Philippians 1:6 offers this beautiful assurance. He who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion. Notice that Scripture doesn't say God begins and then walks away. He finishes what He starts. That promise becomes especially meaningful during seasons when you cannot yet see the outcome. Sometimes heaven appears silent because God is working beneath the surface rather than above it. Think about a river flowing underground. You cannot hear it. You cannot watch it moving. Yet its unseen current is shaping the land long before it rises into daylight. God often works like that. Invisible does not mean inactive. Hidden does not mean absent. Delayed does not mean denied. One conversation you haven't had yet. One opportunity you haven't discovered. One person you haven't met. One ordinary day that seems no different from countless others could become the turning point that changes everything. The remarkable part is this. When those moments finally arrive, they often seem sudden. People call them overnight miracles. But heaven knows they were years in the making. Joseph became governor of Egypt in a single day. The preparation took years. David was crowned king after years of obscurity. The preparation took years. Esther wore the crown in one unforgettable moment. The preparation took years. The breakthrough may appear suddenly. The preparation almost never does. Perhaps you've underestimated what God has been accomplishing simply because it hasn't been visible. Maybe your prayers have not been ignored. Maybe they have been unfolding in ways too deep for your present vision to understand. Isaiah wrote, "Those who wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength." Notice the promise isn't merely about reaching the destination. Something happens while we wait. Strength grows. Perspective changes. Character matures. Faith becomes rooted instead of fragile. Waiting with God is never wasted time. It is sacred ground where invisible transformation takes place. So don't measure your life only by what has happened around you. Ask what has been happening within you. Are you more compassionate than you were years ago? More patient? More dependent on God? Quicker to forgive? Slower to panic? Those changes may seem small. Heaven sees them as evidence that something beautiful is already taking shape. The miracle isn't only what God is preparing for you. Sometimes, the greater miracle is the person He is preparing you to become. And once that preparation is complete, doors that seemed impossible to open often begin moving in ways no human effort could have achieved. Because when heaven's timing finally meets heaven's preparation, nothing can prevent what God has already appointed. And that truth becomes even clearer in the next story, one that unfolded in the middle of a barren wilderness, where a desperate mother believed every hope had come to an end, until she discovered that God's provision had been nearby all along. My beloved child, there are seasons when my silence becomes the greatest mystery in your life. You ask, you wait, you hope, and still, nothing seems to change. The same mountain remains before you. The same prayer returns to your lips. The same burden follows you into another morning. Little by little, you begin to wonder whether heaven has forgotten your name. But listen carefully. Silence is not absence. Silence is often the language of preparation. Have you ever noticed how builders work before anyone celebrates the finished house? The strongest parts are placed where nobody will ever see them. The deepest foundation disappears beneath the ground. People only admire the walls, but those walls stand because of what remained hidden. Your life is no different. I am not interested in giving you temporary victories that collapse under pressure. I am preparing something that can remain standing when every wind begins to blow. That kind of work cannot always happen where everyone is watching. It happens in secret places. It happens inside your character, inside your patience, inside your trust. And because the work is invisible, you mistakenly believe nothing is happening. But my child, heaven is never idle. Even now, while you are reading these words, I am arranging things beyond your sight. I am moving hearts you cannot reach, opening conversations you never expected, removing dangers you never noticed, closing roads that would have wounded you later. You only see today's delay. I already see tomorrow's protection. Remember Noah. For years he built an ark while the sky remained completely clear. Imagine how many people laughed. Imagine how many asked, "Why are you building something that has never been needed?" Day after day, nothing happened. No clouds, no rain, no evidence, only obedience. Then suddenly, what had looked foolish became the only place of safety. My beloved child, never judge my instructions by today's weather. Some of the things I ask you to build will only make sense later. Keep building, keep praying, keep trusting, even when the sky looks unchanged. Because I never prepare my children only for today. I prepare them for what they cannot yet imagine. There are dreams within your heart that seem delayed, relationships that seem frozen, promises that appear forgotten. But delay and denial are not the same thing. Fruit takes time because roots must grow first. Would you become angry with a tree because it refuses to bear fruit 1 week after being planted? Of course not. You understand that growth happens beneath the surface. Why then do you become impatient with your own soul? You expect healing overnight, wisdom overnight, peace overnight. But transformation is not manufactured. It is cultivated. Every lesson you learn, every temptation you resist, every act of forgiveness, every prayer whispered when no one hears, these are roots growing deeper. One day, people will call you strong. They will admire your peace. They will wonder why fear no longer controls you. They will see the fruit. They will never realize how many hidden seasons produced it. My beloved child, do not envy those whose lives seem easier than yours. You are only seeing the surface. You do not know the battles hidden behind their smiles. Neither do they know yours. Comparison blinds gratitude. It convinces you that someone else's path would make you happier. But I created no two journeys alike. The stars do not compete with the moon. The rivers do not compete with the mountains. Everything fulfills its purpose by remaining where I have placed it. So remain faithful. Remain teachable. Remain close to me. Your assignment is not to imitate another life. It is to become fully alive in the one I have entrusted to you. Sometimes I answer your prayers differently than you expected because I love you too much to satisfy only your immediate desires. A child may ask for what shines. A father provides what gives life. There are things you once begged me for, that today you quietly thank me for not giving. There are doors you cried over, that later became testimonies of protection. You called it disappointment. I called it mercy. You called it failure. I called it redirection. You called it the end. I called it the beginning. Trust my perspective, for I can see beyond every horizon. My child, there are also moments when I ask you to wait, not because the blessing is unfinished, but because you are still becoming the person who can carry it wisely. Great gifts require mature hands. Influence requires humility. Success requires character. Favor requires stewardship. Without those things, the blessing itself can become a burden. So while you ask me to change your circumstances, I may first be changing you. And that is the greater miracle. For changed circumstances can improve a season, but a changed heart can transform an entire lifetime. Never underestimate what I am doing inside you. The greatest victories are rarely announced with noise. They begin quietly. One surrendered decision, one forgiven offense, one act of obedience, one whispered prayer. These become the turning points of destinies. My beloved child, lift your eyes. You are closer than you think. Do not abandon the field because harvest has not appeared today. Do not leave the well because you have not yet tasted water. Do not stop walking because dawn has not yet reached the horizon. Night never negotiates with morning. It simply gives way when the light arrives. And the light is already coming. Because I have never abandoned the work of my hands. What I begin, I always finish. Stay with me, just a little longer. The story is not ending here. The most beautiful chapters are still being written. My beloved child, there are moments when you believe you are losing pieces of your life. A friendship quietly fades. An opportunity slips away. A door closes without explanation. Plans you carefully built begin to unravel before your eyes. And your first thought is always the same. Why is everything falling apart? But my child, not everything that leaves your life has been stolen from you. Some things are being gently removed because they were never meant to walk beside you forever. You see loss. I see release. You see an ending. I see room for something greater. A gardener does not hate the branches he prunes. He cuts away only what prevents healthier growth. The branch may not understand the blade, but the gardener understands the harvest. In the same way, there are attachments, expectations, habits, and even ambitions that cannot remain where I am leading you. If I allowed everything to stay, your future would become crowded with things that no longer belong there. My child, I know how tightly you hold certain dreams. Some have been with you for years. You have imagined them so often that they almost feel like promises. But never mistake your imagination for my direction. There is a difference. Sometimes you ask me to bless the road you have chosen, while I lovingly invite you toward the road I prepared long before you were born. The second road is not always easier, but it always leads to life. Remember Abraham. He left everything familiar without knowing every detail ahead. He did not receive a complete map. He received a promise. Faith has never depended on seeing the entire journey. Faith walks because it knows the one who leads. That is how I want you to walk. Not with every answer, but with quiet confidence in my character. There are days when uncertainty makes you uncomfortable. You want clarity before obedience. You want guarantees before surrender. You want guarantees before the first step. Yet that is not how trust grows. Trust grows when you continue walking even while questions remain. My beloved child, I am teaching you something that the world rarely understands. Security is not found in circumstances. It is found in my presence. People build their confidence on money, positions, approval, relationships, or success. None of those things are permanent. One unexpected moment can change them all. But my presence cannot be shaken. The one who walks with me carries stability even while everything around them changes. That is why storms no longer define their identity. They have learned to anchor themselves somewhere deeper. Do not fear when your plans change. Fear only becoming so attached to your own understanding that you stop recognizing my voice. Sometimes I whisper, wait. Other times I whisper, go. Both require faith. Waiting is not wasted time. Waiting is where wisdom matures. Look at David. Long before he ever wore a crown, he learned to care for sheep where almost nobody noticed him. The throne did not prepare the shepherd. The shepherd prepared the king. Every lonely hillside, every unseen battle against lions and bears, every quiet song sung beneath the stars, all of it shaped the man who would one day lead a nation. My beloved child, do not despise your hidden season. The place that feels unnoticed today may become the very reason you remain steady tomorrow. What seems ordinary now is preparing you for extraordinary responsibility later. I see what nobody else sees. I notice the prayers no one hears, the kindness no one applauds, the integrity no one rewards, the sacrifices nobody recognizes. Nothing offered in love escapes my attention. The world celebrates what is visible. Heaven treasures what is faithful. So continue choosing honesty. Continue choosing compassion. Continue choosing humility. Even when nobody thanks you. Character built in secret carries greater weight than applause received in public. Never measure your value by how many people notice you. Measure it by how closely you continue walking with me. My beloved child, there is another reason I sometimes remove things from your hands. Empty hands are able to receive new gifts. As long as you cling to what I have already asked you to release, you cannot fully embrace what I am trying to place before you. Imagine someone trying to catch fresh water while refusing to let go of a handful of dry sand. Both cannot remain together. Some things must be surrendered, not because they are evil, but because they have completed their purpose. Seasons change. Children become adults. Night becomes morning. Seeds become harvest. Everything I create understands seasons. Do not remain emotionally attached to yesterday when I am inviting you into tomorrow. You are not abandoning your past. You are allowing it to become part of your testimony instead of your prison. My beloved child, there will always be voices trying to convince you that you have missed your opportunity, that it is too late, that someone else has taken your place, that your best days are behind you. Do not believe those voices. I am not limited by human timing. When I open a door, no delay can prevent it. When I establish a purpose, no opinion can erase it. When I call someone, I also provide the grace required to fulfill that calling. Stop looking at the calendar with fear. Look at my faithfulness instead. The one who carried you through yesterday has not changed today. Neither will I change tomorrow. You are still held, still guided, still loved, still called. So release what keeps pulling your eyes backward. Lift your gaze toward what I am doing now. Because the future I have prepared is not built from your regrets. It is built from my promises. Walk forward without fear. The path ahead may still be unfamiliar, but you will never walk it alone. For my hand has never left yours, and it never will. My beloved child, there are days when you believe the greatest struggle in your life is the one standing directly in front of you. The unpaid bill, the difficult conversation, the closed door, the unanswered prayer, the lonely evening, the uncertain future. Your eyes naturally settle on what is visible, but I want to lift your vision beyond what your natural eyes can measure. Not every battle is fought where you can see it. Many of the greatest victories begin in places hidden from human sight. While you are worrying about tomorrow, I am already standing there. While you are trying to solve one problem, I am arranging hundreds of details you have not yet discovered. You live one day at a time. I see every generation at once. Nothing surprises me. Nothing catches me unprepared. Nothing forces me to invent another plan. Before your first breath, I already knew every valley you would cross, every joy you would celebrate, every disappointment that would wound your heart, every prayer you would whisper through tears. And still, I chose you. Not because the road would be easy, but because my grace would always be enough. My child, the enemy wants you to believe that every delay means defeat, that every disappointment means abandonment, that every hardship proves you have been forgotten. But lies become powerful only when they are believed. That is why I continually invite you back to truth. Truth reminds you that my love has never depended on your circumstances. Truth reminds you that my promises are stronger than your fears. Truth reminds you that my presence remains even when your emotions begin to fluctuate. Do not allow temporary feelings to rewrite eternal reality. Clouds may hide the stars, but they never remove them. Your emotions may rise and fall like waves, but my faithfulness remains unchanged. Anchor your heart there, my beloved child. There are battles you keep trying to win with exhausted hands, when I have been inviting you to surrender them into mine. You replay conversations. You imagine different outcomes. You rehearse arguments that may never happen. You carry burdens that have not even arrived. By the time the day begins, your soul is already tired. Come to me. Lay those burdens down. You were never created to carry tomorrow before it arrives. I give strength for today's journey. Tomorrow will receive its own grace. Look at the birds that greet the morning. They do not spend the night collecting enough songs for the next season. They awaken. They trust. They sing. And somehow, they are provided for. If I care for the smallest sparrow, how much more do I care for you? Do not mistake my quietness for distance. Often, while you are asking me to remove the mountain, I am teaching you how to climb it without fear, because there will be other mountains ahead. If I removed every challenge, you would never discover the strength my spirit is producing within you. Courage is not born where nothing is difficult. It is born where faith decides to keep walking despite uncertainty. Remember Peter stepping onto the water. The miracle did not begin when the sea became calm. The waves remained. The wind still blew. The impossible still surrounded him. Yet for those first precious moments, he walked where no human strength could carry him. Why? Because his eyes were fixed on me. The moment fear became greater than trust, he began to sink. My beloved child, this has never been only about water. It is about focus. Whatever occupies your attention will eventually influence your direction. If fear becomes your constant companion, your heart will shrink. If bitterness becomes your meditation, your joy will fade. If comparison fills your thoughts, gratitude will quietly disappear. But if you continually return your eyes to me, peace will begin to grow where panic once lived. Hope will quietly replace despair. Wisdom will speak louder than confusion. That is why I tell you again, guard what enters your heart. Not every voice deserves your attention. Not every opinion deserves your belief. Not every criticism deserves your response. Silence can protect what unnecessary arguments would destroy. There is strength in restraint. There is wisdom in waiting. There is maturity in refusing to react every time someone misunderstands you. My child, I never called you to win every argument. I called you to remain faithful. There is a difference. Some people spend their lives proving they were right. Others spend their lives becoming more like me. Choose the second path. Its reward lasts forever. My beloved child, I know you sometimes feel invisible. You wonder whether your quiet faithfulness matters, whether your unseen sacrifices have any value, whether your small acts of kindness make any difference. Listen carefully. Nothing done in love is ever small. A gentle word may prevent someone from giving up. A patient response may stop generations of bitterness. A prayer whispered in secret may become the beginning of another person's miracle. You rarely see the full impact of your obedience. But I do. I see every unseen victory, every temptation resisted, every selfish desire surrendered, every honest choice made when nobody was watching. Heaven celebrates what earth often overlooks. Never forget that. My child, the greatest battle has never been about your circumstances. It has always been about your heart. Because if the enemy can fill your heart with fear, he does not need to control your future. Fear will do it for him. But if your heart remains rooted in my peace, even the fiercest storm cannot steal what I have planted within you. That is why I keep calling you closer. Not because I need your presence, but because you need mine. Remain with me, walk with me, speak with me, rest in me. And when the next battle appears, you will discover something beautiful. You are no longer facing it as the person you once were. You have become stronger, wiser, gentler, more steadfast. Not because life became easier, but because my presence became more real than your fears. So do not be afraid of what tomorrow may bring. Tomorrow has already passed through my hands, and the hands that hold tomorrow are the same hands that are holding you now. My beloved child, if these words have reached the deepest places of your heart, do not let this moment pass like every other moment. Do not close this message and return to life unchanged. Pause for just a little while longer, because I am still speaking. The world will try to fill your mind with louder voices the moment you leave here. It will tell you to hurry, to worry, to chase, to fear. But my voice calls you to something different. It calls you to remain, to trust, to walk one step at a time with me. You may not know what tomorrow holds, but you can know the one who already stands in tomorrow waiting for you. That is enough. So before you go, I want you to make a quiet decision in your heart. Choose to let fear lose its authority. Choose to forgive where bitterness has lived. Choose to believe that your story is not ending in the valley, but is moving toward the purpose I prepared long before you took your first breath. And whenever you feel weak again, return here. Return to my word. Return to prayer. Return to my presence. You will never wear out my love, and you will never reach the end of my mercy. Every sunrise is another reminder that I have not finished writing your story. Now, my child, I invite you to do something simple but meaningful. If this message became a light for your heart today, write these words in the comments. Lord, I choose to trust you, even when I cannot see the way. Let that be more than a comment. Let it become your prayer. And if you know someone whose heart is tired, someone carrying silent battles, someone who feels forgotten or alone, share this message with them. Your simple act of sharing may become the answer to a prayer they've been whispering in secret. You may never know whose life is changed because you chose to pass hope forward. If you want to keep walking together through messages that strengthen your faith, renew your hope, and remind you that you are deeply loved by God. Subscribe and become part of this growing family. Every message is created to help you draw closer to His presence and find peace in every season. Until we meet again, may the Lord guard your heart, steady your steps, fill your home with His peace, and remind you every single day that you are never walking alone, because the one who called you will never stop walking beside you.